All right, hello everyone. This is Ryan Boyles. We're back for yet another IBM Insight Chat here live. We have an exciting topic today. We have something I'm really excited to get an update on from folks that we've been working with on this project for quite a while. But first, I just want to introduce who we have on the call today. My name's Ryan Boyles. I work for the Global Conference team working on Insight. I have my colleague here from my department, Ted Conroy, who's going to be my intrepid co-host for today, calling in from New York. And I want to introduce our special guests. We have ultracyclist and super athlete Dave Haase. We also have an IBMer who's very close to this project and sort of Dave's partner in crime, Doug. So I want to just give the floor to Doug. I would love to give the floor for you to give just a really quick intro for what your role is at IBM, and then we're going to switch gears and really talk about why we have Dave on the call today.
Yeah, that's super. Ryan, it's really good to be with you and Ted and Dave. So my name is Doug Barton. I'm a Director of Portfolio Marketing for Performance Management. And I guess in the context of this, you could call it I help sell, support, and deliver value to clients who want to create their companies as great athletes. You think the challenges that really impact our organizations is how do they bring resources, human and financial capital, and put those at opportunities that can drive growth, profit, and investment productivity. We typically sell software and solutions to finance, operations, sales professionals who want to have this really big impact on their enterprises. So that's my day job. What we'll be talking about a little bit here is kind of what I did over my summer vacation. But indeed, we thought that the Race Across America was the perfect proving ground for a host of IBM technologies that we think are going to impact everyone's enterprise, everyone's business, everyone's analytics in the future. Back to you, Ryan.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that. And so Dave, it's been a while since we spoke, but I'd really like to go back to the beginning and kind of get you to give us really a background into the feat that you have undertaken with the Race Across America, and really explain what that is and your background with racing.
All right, great, Ryan. My background with racing is basically I have done a bunch of long-distance races, and then I entered in 2004 the Race Across America. So I've done 5 Race Across Americas. Race Across America is basically a non-stop bicycle race that starts in Oceanside, California. It covers 3,000 miles. It goes through 12 states, over 170,000 feet of climbing. And I think the best part about that race is it's non-stop, so the clock never stops moving. We're constantly moving forward in the race. My finishes have been always fairly good. I was my first year I did not finish, so I guess that's not very good. I ended up in the hospital and had to learn a lot about racing and different things. So the proper eating, and then pay attention to other metrics that maybe we'll get into. And then that was 2004. In 2005, I entered the race and finished my first RAAM. And that was in about 10 days and 20 hours, and it was a 4th place finish and a top American finish. I went back in 2006 and again had a 4th place finish and the top American finish. And then in 2008, I had my best finish. It was 9 days and 21 hours, and that was a 3rd place finish, and again the top American racer. So it's a crazy race, and I do all these other 500-mile races and 24-hour races, but Race Across America is truly the hardest race of any races that are out there. It is viewed by Outside Magazine as the hardest endurance event in the world, so harder than climbing Mount Everest. And there's been a few people that have done both, and RAAM is always described as harder. Mount Everest is a little more dangerous, but the challenges that you face doing the Race Across America are related to heat, weather, your own body, fueling, hydration, and then you have a crew of people who may have never met each other, and they're going across the country nonstop like you are. making sure you're safe. And so it's a super hard challenge, and I've been up for the challenge a few times, and I think I'm going to be up for it one more time. We've been trying to win this race and put an American on the podium, and as it stands now, I still might be the best hope for America. So we're working hard on trying to figure out ways to get to the finish line first.
Dave, that stat when it comes to, or not that stat, that note by Outside Magazine, which sent John Krakauer to Everest back in the 90s, that inspired, a movie that's coming out right now, and the difficulty and the tragedy on that, really creates an amazing corollary on just how difficult this race is, just based on how people in the real world can read about how difficult Everest is and really have that association. So that's pretty crazy. So we know that you like to hurt yourself. We know that you are doing amazing things on the bike right now. But what I'd like to get into is talk a little bit about how you ended up with IBM. How did you get here, and how did we go from third place American finisher top American finisher, third place overall, to moving up a slot and really starting to look at, after you're in the hospital, how to train, how to analyze, and then how to make decisions in the race. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about how you got involved in the project that we'll be bringing you on for Insight.
It kind of started with a simple, post on social media to Doug, and said, hey, I'm trying to improve upon this race, and I was looking for sponsors. And he said, well, I think that IBM can help you in a different way. I think they can help you improve your race performance and move forward that way and go faster and race your perfect race. And so it kind of led to what is the perfect race, and how do we put all of that together. And it started with me, in the past, my first race I used no bike computer, no real tools to measure anything. The next time I did the race, I had a bike computer, and we followed some things. And then in my training, I've started using a power meter and being more specific in the analytics of training and how hard to put an effort out and when to recover. And so I've become way more aware of my body personally. I think working with IBM, it started out as, here's all your data and here's your metrics, and these are things we can help you with and help you watch and monitor to improve your performance in the race, because hydration and suffering through the desert, now it's like 110 or 20 degrees in the desert, and I know that's hot, and it's hot, and I think everyone knows 120 degrees is hot, but knowing your core body temperature is very important to the effort that you can put out. So these devices that we used to measure different things, core body temperature, breathing rate, heart rate, became very important in the race. And my crew then, with the IBM partnership, was able to view this right inside the follow vehicle that's along, keeping me safe. So instead of guessing where I was out on the road, because I'm just riding the whole time, they could physically see on their iPad right in the follow vehicle what was going on to me, my body, my temperature, my effort, as opposed to kind of estimating that effort based on how fast the car was moving down the road. So
Gotcha.
Great, cool thing.
Well, I want to kick it over to Doug to talk a little bit more about that, because Doug and I are both, amateur athletes. Well, I can't speak for Doug, but I'm very, very amateur, and I'm a triathlete. But what I can say is, I've got a heart rate sensor here. I've got a training tool computer here. I've got Trainer Road that I can analyze all of, my performance here, and I've got a spec'd out bike with sensors here. So my question is for you, Doug, as kind of the IBM focal on this. How did IBM bring these and other technologies together and create that platform that allowed Doug to get those real-time analytics from an iPad that your recreational, over-purchased athlete can't do at this point?
I'm glad you're admitting to that. I have the same addictions. I think
we like to suffer, and we like toys. Those are the two things that we both know as triathletes.
That defines a triathlete. We're always in search. I think that the common theme here, even in my professional life, is how do you realize an organization's potential? How do you realize an athlete's potential? No doubt, I make those purchases of devices to monitor my effort, monitor my results, really so that I can gain new insight that I can put into action. Well, so this level of instrumentation now is all around us. You've highlighted just some of the things that a typical athlete, amateur athlete, or other would have available to them. Our work with Dave was really focused initially on creating a digital description of Dave. Take all the data that he had accumulated in 24-hour races and long efforts in his training, and to use that data about power, his effort, his heart rate, his biometrics, to build a kind of a digital profile that will allow us to model his progress over the 3,000-mile bike race that we knew was coming in June. And so we actually built what we called the Internet of Dave. The Internet of Things is something that's kind of come into our lexicon and our language around describing how the physical world is increasingly instrumented and interconnected. Well, we created the Internet of Dave to take all of those sensors and to aggregate that data in real time. We used a couple of really important sort of nodes on that internet. We consolidated a lot of data on a Garmin device. Garmin's been very good about opening up their data model and their technology so that we can get real-time information from these devices. It would then travel to an Android phone. We had a team building an Android application that would actually compile this data and send it in milliseconds up to the cellular network. We used our Internet of Things Foundation, which moved that data securely over that network quickly. And then we put that data in our Bluemix platform. And I know I'm talking a lot of technology here, but just know that this happened nearly instantaneously with what Dave was experiencing on the road. And the value of putting it in the cloud is we could deliver it back through easy-to-use dashboards that were informing then the medical crew that was with Dave's team and the follow vehicle. So just as Dave described, you know, the challenge of riding the Sonoran Desert when it's 120 degrees on the pavement, we had real-time information about how Dave's physiology was holding up to those demands. The team could radio to him. He was in constant two-way communication with the follow vehicle. They could suggest that he reduce his effort to keep his temperature within the right range. Or they could take interventions, trying to cool him by the application of water or mist on his skin, or a creatively employed sports bra. I'm sure Dave can tell us more about sports bras and how you choose the perfect one for a 3,000-mile race.
We need to take a time out before you finish. Explain.
Yeah. So Dave, how about that sports bra?
Go for it.
How did that come in handy?
Well, we were using ice to keep me cool in little bags, and the ice was sliding all over. It was starting to drip down. The dripping of the excess water caused a little bit of saddle sores, and so I was really starting to feel the pain of some saddle sores, and one of my crew members, being creative, said, "Hey, my wife always slips some ice in her sports bra when she gets hot during a triathlon." So all of a sudden they came up with a sports bra. I'm a double D, by the way. We put that on, packed it full of ice, and it allowed me to keep my body temperature cool with ice both in the front and rear of my body, and prevented all of the excess water from dripping down, I guess preventing additional saddle sores. So it was, you know, a brilliant idea, but it was the way that we could keep my body temperature the most cool in those hot temperatures, and that was monitored all through the metrics that we were using, and my crew was able to see that right on the iPad, you know, and watch my core temperature go from 99 to 100, and then they knew that I needed to dump some cold water on me, so we kept that 99 degrees or less, and that was in the right perfect range while we were racing. So
it's really amazing how the high tech can deliver some of those just completely low tech, crude, jerry-rigged MacGyver solutions, which is really cool. So Dave or Doug, I'll let you get back to finish things up, but just amazing.
It really is, and the thing to know about this is that 50% of the RAAM racers this year didn't make it to Annapolis, right? And many of them will trace the failure to endure these demands back to the experience of the Sonoran Desert, right, or the heat that hit in the in Monument Valley. I'm reminded of all these places because Dave, look what I created here. I don't know if you can get this.
Oh,
I created
yeah.
a coffee mug with pictures of you on your 3,000-mile race.
Wow,
Yeah,
that is
this is
awesome.
how I.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. How I'm reminded of your and our project from the summer. But look, you know, when a race claims 50% of the racers due to some occurrence that could be easily monitored and where you can plan interventions, this is absolutely appropriate to address this. This is the #1 reason why people don't finish. There's even a shorter race of merely 1,000 miles that went from Oceanside to Durango, Colorado, that claimed 60% of the riders on that shorter race. So we had extreme conditions, and fortunately we had the technology on Dave to keep him, you know, safe, because you got to be in the race to win it. And we weren't going to win it if we ended up in a hospital or with delays with dehydration or any other heat-related illness. You know, so the third movement, actually, if I can just quickly share that the third movement here from understanding Dave digitally, so we could build models of his effort and performance, that came from his training records. That was primarily backward-looking at his body of work. The second thing was real-time monitoring, so that we could intervene smartly and get him safely across some of the early race demands in the deserts. The next effort was, how do we ensure that every watt that Dave puts into the pedals, every calorie he burns, would get the maximum yield, would get him further down the course to Annapolis, Maryland. And we have a partnership at IBM with the weather company, and it has yielded an opportunity to use weather about conditions, in this case weather conditions, that can make a huge difference relative to the yield that Dave would enjoy as he raced about every 22 out of 24 hours. So how that worked is since we had a model of Dave's power, we could convert that power to the pedals into a speed of the bike over the slope of the road, and we would predict where Dave would be on the road, and we would look at what the forecast for wind conditions is at that exact point. So we would peer down the road almost 2,000 geolocation points, okay, and we would look at the wind relative to the road direction that Dave would be riding, and we would know whether Dave's going to be helped along by a relative tailwind or whether he would be hurt by a relative headwind. And we did the math. I mean, it is math that, you know, our kids are learning in high school and, you know, first and second year of college, but it's employed at high speed and over a very large and long data set. But we were able to give them, to Dave's crew, information that would allow them to adjust when they rested and where they rested. So choose Flagstaff, choose Durango, choose, you know, your next spot down the road in a way that when you wake up in 2 hours, you will face better conditions. And that is kind of turning, you know, I guess, foresight into luck in many ways. Creating our own luck is how we like to think of it. And we think we had about a 12-hour impact on Dave's decision-making there for no watts, for 0 calories. That's one hell of a return to analytics, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're talking about up to, you know, 10% of a difference just from what already exists. So we've got the story in Dave's end, and we know that it helped him for this. So from your more traditional tracks in which people would use IBM technology, where from a decision optimization standpoint does this lead us? What does this mean for the consumer who isn't doing a cross-country bike race? Where is the application on IBM technologies being able to help you forecast the future?
Yeah, I think there are probably 2 or 3 lessons we can take away from this. One is that we can better model outcomes that we care about, right? In the area of, let's say, front office, we care about acquiring new customers or serving new customers in new ways. And oftentimes the insights are really, they're observed best in the large set of operational data. I'll give you a good example. We're all more familiar now than ever about social media. Well, in there, those are the tea leaves that give insight into customer sentiment, maybe to future buying patterns, right? And that sort of data now gives insight that is very kind of prescriptive and actionable. I draw the analogy because, you know, it was really when we were able to monitor Dave's pressure on the pedals that ultimately gave us insight that was actionable about his progress across the U.S. and where he should race or rest. So this notion of availing yourselves of operational data would be the first lesson. The second lesson I would also suggest is bring in external data. You know, in fact, we can look directly at weather. It's been said that weather accounts for trillions of dollars of economic impact, and it's not just the weather that we think that closes airports, right, or causes flooding, or is the hailstorm that causes insurance claims. It is the everyday weather about what's driving foot traffic in my retail location or driving demand for my electrolyte drinks in my 7-Eleven stores, right? That also brings Doug by the candy bar aisle where he buys a salted nut roll, right? Those things are all related, and we can now use external data to better combine and find new insights that allows us to plan for the future in a much better way. So, you know, this is something that will affect front office and back office operations alike, bringing operational data and also external data to bear, really, on the sorts of problems. And I'll leave it there. I mean, there's a fascinating thread to this about the type of analytics, the prescriptive and predictive analytics. Suffice it to say that there's a ton of ways of using algorithms to augment human decision making, and I think, you know, we had that example here with Dave's crew. We would make recommendations about where to stop, but it was their eyes, their expertise that also said, you know, I get the recommendation here, but it makes sense perhaps to face a downhill challenge as I get going the next day versus an uphill challenge. So I'll leave it there, Ted.
Awesome.
Great. Well, thank you for that, Doug. What I want to do now is sort of switch gears and talk about the conference that we have coming up next week, Insight, where I know both of you, all of us are excited about being there, but in particular, Dave, I'd love to hear sort of from your perspective what you're looking forward to with bringing your story back to an IBM conference at the scale of Insight. You know, what are you looking forward to doing there or accomplishing at the conference?
Well, I think for me it's really interesting because I look at it as I'm just out there riding my bike, right? An ultra-distance cyclist, enjoying what I love to do. Yet, as a small business owner, I also see how this analytics all of it can help my own business, but I think it puts a face to everything that we're doing, and you can see that on a small scale or a large scale, because this race was over a large period of time, how you can use data and affect results in the end. And we're talking about a bike race, but it's true with everything in the real world, and it happens to every business out there, and it's the same thing, just a little different type of story. So it's fun to share that type of thing and how we use that data. Get to ride my bike, of course, that's always fun, right? But see some new things and new technologies that we are looking forward to using in the future. And, you know, I think whenever you can share a story like this with people that may understand, you know, like Ted and Doug, both athletes, but at a big scale, and they're busy working and doing everything that they do, but they get all of the analytics that we're using, I think that just brings a new light to it and how you can use it. So there's multiple things, events that I get to do. Obviously, the weather channel or weather station, we're going to be doing some talks about how weather impacted the race. And how the heat impacted the race. So that's really cool because that was a big part of this race is the weather and how that came into play. So all of those things are exciting to talk about at the event. So
excellent. Thank you for that perspective. And Doug, I want to let you sort of, if you want to talk about more specifics around these events, I'd love to hear sort of you give some quick pointers on what folks should look out for and maybe add to their agenda through their schedule builder with their mobile app.
Yeah. So absolutely, there's a number of you know, I guess formal ways to engage with the story of what we had coined the analytics of Dave here at the event. Proud to see him featured as the kickoff topic that Jake Porway, our MC for the general sessions, will share on day 2. Day 2 has a theme about empowering yourself. You know, we see Insight as a service to our clients who are seeking to make the biggest impact on their own businesses that they can. And in many ways, Dave's story is just that, right? Kind of one man's attempt to realizing more potential in his own endeavor. And so we thought this was a perfect way of opening up the session. I would be thrilled to see it on the big screens, and it'll be broadcast, of course, as well. So day 2 general session, don't miss it. Mandalay Bay Event Center, probably 14,000 people in the audience and many more online. The second thing is we are going to put Dave to work. We're going to have him completely wired up Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the expo hall. He's in the Internet of Things exhibit. And of course, it's not just one thing. I described a little bit of how we created the Internet of Dave, but it's really the combination of that plus analytics, plus our cloud platform that made all the difference. But we have Dave pedaling away. As he alluded to, I know he's interested. I'm interested. We're actually adding a new device that we didn't put to use in the Race Across America. This is a device that can read in real time using an optical sensor the blood oxygen level within his muscle. Now you might be curious as to why that would be interesting, but when you're an endurance athlete, what you're always worried about is pacing. Right, Dave's got to pace himself for a 3,000-mile journey. I regularly get out and do 140.6 efforts, and it's all about pacing. And actually watching the blood oxygen level in your blood, in your muscles, gives you insight on how you're moderating your effort. And we're going to put that to work with Dave, well, for the first time for him, but we're excited to add that to the battery of sensors that we have that can help have the best impact. So that's in the expo hall. You know, turn out to see that. At the IoT Expo, and Dave actually alluded to the last one. I think we're all thrilled to work with the Weather Company on this, and Mike Bettis, who's the host of a program called Weather Underground, which shows is on every night from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, is going to be broadcasting from Insight next week, and we're thrilled to be his guest. I think we'll be a guest about what would be 5 p.m. Eastern Time, or 3 o'clock if you're in Las Vegas. So. I think I'm doing the math horribly wrong there.
Not horribly,
but
just,
I know
one
the
hour.
program
Just
is 6 to 8
listen, guys. It is the week of the conference. It's busy. Everybody's got to have their helmets on. You got to be ready for all of this. So my question is, where do all of these reject sensors, all of the things that don't work out for the analytics of Dave, where's the repository that this is going in? Specifically power meters and lactate threshold sleeps that just kind of didn't make the cut for whatever Dave needed.
Yeah. I think I see where you're going with this. You're looking for a little budget improvement act.
It seems like a loaded question to me.
It's loaded with nothing but excitement. But Brian, I'll let you wrap this one up. I know you had one more question for everybody.
I think you guys are going to have to negotiate that in person in Vegas next week. So I want to cap this off, though, by just saying thank you to our special guest, Dave Haase. Doug Barton, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person as well. Ted, as always, I have one final question that I think will be fun for everybody to answer here on the panel today. This is the standard question. I've kind of landed on it. I think is a fun closing remark for these chats, and it's simply, do you have a survival tip? And I think you guys might have an interesting perspective being athletes of varying degrees, right? Do you have a survival tip specifically for tech conferences, right? It is a marathon unto itself. When you go to Vegas for several days, it's a different environment. You've got the dehydration. You've got the staying up all night and all day. What is a survival tip that you can give to conference goers who may be coming to Insight for the first time, which there is a record number of first-time attendees this year, I'm being told, and also the road warriors, right, that need to improve their game, much like you do, Dave, out on the open road. So I'll start out with you, Dave. What do you put you on the spot? Do you have a survival tip that you can apply from your experience to a tech conference?
Definitely. Proper hydration is the key. Yep. I know as you walk around all day long, you forget to hydrate, and you're trying to find caffeine to keep you up and see all these things that are going on and check out what I'm doing and other people are doing and see everything that's there. So hydrating properly from my standpoint, is always the key. So I think that's probably the best advice I can give. That's about the amount of tech data that I have that I can provide. So hydrate properly.
Tried and true. Tried and true. I agree. And so, Doug, we'll go with you next.
Yeah. Well, look, I guess since Dave's covering hydration, I'll say eat well. It's not always easy to to get your calories and do that. So eat well. I will also say get outside. And we're at a terrific location. While we do want you in the expo hall, get out and walk around the Mandalay Bay Resort area. You can get fresh air out there, and I would highly recommend that. And then, of course, if you find yourself at the blackjack table, make sure you split aces and eights. Number of times I see people forget that rule. It's heartbreaking. So do the right thing.
Excellent. Well, we have a plethora of tips today, but Ted, why don't you bring us home before I give my standard tip?
All right, and this is my standard tip across all conferences. Now Doug is a director here at IBM. He's going to want to make sure his charges have very nice footwear on, but this doesn't really help you. Now Dave is going to come to the event, and he's going to be on a bike, and he's going to have one of these. He's going to have clipless pedal shoes on. Those really don't help you. That'll hurt. Now, as a triathlete, Doug knows the value of switching between shoes depending on what leg of the race you're in. If you are walking to a session, walking from your hotel, these are the absolute best things that will ever happen to you at a conference. If you ever check your Fitbit or your Apple Watch or your health meter, you will walk upwards of 8 to 9 miles in a day at these conferences. So make sure you have proper footwear for all different venues. Bring a backpack. Keep an extra pair of shoes in because your dogs will hurt really, really quick if you don't. And that's always been my tip.
Excellent. Well, I'm giving you bonus points today, Ted, for all the props. That is one of the standard tips. Do not wear new shoes, but you took it to another level with the example there. So thank you. I'm going to close it out with a new tip. I really want to encourage everyone to explore Insight. It's a very big conference. There's a lot going on, but just like the story we've heard today and the technology that we've learned, briefly about, there are opportunities everywhere for you to discover something new. So if you're attending Insight, whether it's for the first time or you're an annual participant, there's always something new that maybe you didn't know existed, or some new development that is coming out of IBM research, or a pet project like this that turned into a real thing. There's so much that you can learn both in the expo or just by dropping into a session that maybe wasn't all that planned, in your roadmap. So I would encourage everyone to take a chance to learn something new this year, in addition to your standard set of things that are maybe within your career roadmap. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining today. I want to thank Dave, Doug, Ted, for being here on the panel. And with that, we're going to sign off on this IBM Insight chat, and we hope to see you all in person or online with IBMGo.com at Insight next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right.
Awesome. This is great.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ryan.